Warning. This podcast contains explicit sexual language and should only be listened to at work if you're looking for an excuse to connect with your HR representative. Additionally, all mentions of the word women include cis and trans women. If you are genderqueer, gender fluid, figuring it out, anything in between, and feel like this conversation is also important for you, you are welcome here.
Will you open up with me? These pages, they can feed your innermost desires. Do you feel inspired? Are you getting what you need? Are you coming curiously? A secret safe with me. And here you can simply be yourself. Sweet romance. Come on in, come on in, come on.
Hi, y'all. This is Jace, she, they, and you found Jace Reads Romance, a community dedicated to empowering women about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. And I can't help it. It had to be talked about. We had to do a complete episode on Heated Rivalry. So I brought in a guest of yore who is from Canada, who can talk far more intelligently about the greater sphere that Heated Rivalry entails than just me alone. So would you like to introduce or reintroduce yourself for our listeners?
Okay, I would love to. I love being here, so thanks for having me. My name's Hailey, she, her, and I am the Escape Artist Books on Instagram and Threads, where I am slightly saltier. So
She's so brave.
I would suggest you check me out there. And I can't say where I work, but I do have some knowledge about the Canadian government structure and how sort of our tax credits and things work. I have a background in this, and I'm super excited to talk about why Canada was the only place that this show could get made in the way it was made. So I'm so excited.
The amount of messages that we have been sharing back and forth about the show in general was incredible. And the more it's developed its fan base, the more I think Hailey and I wanted to dive deep into what is happening, how it's happening, why it's happening, and also how I think we as a community of fans should respond to this appropriately. Like, it's kind of all the things we talk about, right? Yeah.
Like, it's funny when book boyfriends move into a more visceral, real space, because that's what's essentially happened here. Is a lot of us loved Shane and Ilya before the show, and now Shane and Ilya are personified, and it is making some people forget that Shane and Ilya don't exist. Like, they exist in our hearts, but not in the universe, right? So.
Exactly.
And these are young men with jobs, not objects for us to consume. So
and we're gonna get there. I have a whole bullet point about that, and we know. But I just want to say for the record, I am still waiting on my series, so I have not read the books. I've read other books by Rachel Reed, but I wanted to wait until it came out in print. And a friend of mine bought it for me while I was out of town. And then she and I are just like ships in the night. So my series is not here, and I haven't read it. And by Hailey's gasp, I'm guessing you have.
Yeah. And I had read it before the show came out. I had read it a while ago, or some of them. I don't think I completely finished the series, because I'm notoriously bad for reading like two and then stopping and getting distracted by another series. And what's interesting, or if you
started it before it finished, you're like, God damn it, I have to wait a year.
Exactly.
For this book.
Yeah. Don't get me started. I have bones to pick with some writers who are like, oh, by the way, I'm just never writing the third book. Like, get out of here with that noise.
What is that?
But
leave that shit for George R.R. Martin, not in the romance sphere, friends.
Yeah. No. I need complete.
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, I had read the books before. I had not finished the series, and it is a really like. I'm interested that there is a seventh book now because it felt really complete. Like
That was my question.
book 6 felt really done. But I think what was interesting with book 6 that'll translate really well to book 7 is it was very much about happily ever after, after happily ever after, which is not something we
Oh,
always get in romance books, right? So they really
no.
have this, I don't want to spoil it for you, but let's just say like they are not out as a couple at all. Like they're enacting the plan from episode 6. That's what book 6 is about. And
I love
of
that.
and so we really see how painful it's really very synonymous with
Episode 3.
what Kip and Scott go through, because it's this like, it doesn't matter how much you love each other when you are living this inauthentic hidden life, you are going to have an immense
Yeah.
amount of pain. And like like they have a great sex life and they're really respectful and they barely fight, but they also can't go to dinner together. Or when one of their teammates has friends over, they can't go. They can't openly support each other's successes or failures. Like it's not, so it's a
Yeah.
half-life. And it is, I would say, quite unique because we very rarely get a book that looks into how do we live now? And then I really think
Yeah.
the villain because conflict is romance books follow a formula. Two people, they meet,
Yes.
they have attraction, they have chemistry, they hate each other, whatever. Something happens. There's an explosion of magic. Then there's some conflict. Is it internal? Is it external? Is it between the two of them? We don't know. And then there's a happily ever after.
Or
So
happily for now. Like there
happily for now, there
be.
has to be some, you have to feel like that when you look back at this couple at the 10-year high school reunion, there's still pictures of them happy. They don't have a shared Facebook account. Like that's always my red flag when couples have a shared Facebook. I'm like, oh, what's bad?
Wait, is that something people can do?
Yeah. Oh, but they just put both their names on it, and like the wife generally is the owner of it, but it is generally in response to some sort of emotional or physical affair. Is almost always what precipitates it, and to the point where it's like, why are you doing that?
I'm gonna go with, I'm lucky enough that I don't know anyone who's done that.
Oh my God. Anyway, that is an aside. But so the interesting thing with the books is Ilya and Shane's first book is about their own internalized homophobia. And you know, Ilya dealing with his trauma, Shane figuring out who he is, allowing themselves to love on their own terms. That's the conflict. Book 6, the conflict is about, okay, well, how do we navigate this love in this context of professional sports, being public figures, homophobia, external homophobia, not internal homophobia. And then from the sounds of it, book 7 is going to be about conflict is going to be about hockey in general. At the end of book 6, a thing happens. Again, don't want to spoil it, but let's just say the queers come together and they decide they're going to be a union of queers. So solidarity forever. Right. And that is sort of how that ends in the happily ever after. And I assume this union of queers is going to make things move in the world, which is what I think we all hope for.
It is. And I think something that people keep forgetting is, you know, there's this weird of like, well, of course they'd come out. No, they wouldn't. And in the world today, like, this is still something that humans are, and I think really men are dealing with in organized sports in a way that certainly women are not. There are plenty of out and proud queer women playing professional sports. But the homophobia internalized and institutionalized by men's team sports is still incredibly strong. And I'm sure we will get to how the NHL does not deserve the fans that it is getting right now. Like,
oh, I have things to say.
I know, like, we will get there as we move forward. But like, thank you for sharing your insight into the books, because one of the things about this show is it is based on books. And so
Almost
many
all of the
people,
dialogue comes directly from the books.
I love how passionate Jacob is, the creator of the show and the director of the series and the writer, has been about staying true and authentic to the source material that he has in these books. That is so clear in the way that these were integrated from people that I know who've read them. And yeah, before certain episodes, people are like, this line better be in there or I'm gonna die. I'm like, I don't care if your line is in there, because some stuff, like, books are not screenplays and some things don't translate, but the intention and the story and the connection was there. I want to just state that while we're talking about a TV show, part of the reason why I think it fits so well into the discussion we have about Jace Reed's romance, and specifically romance novels, is because this is completely grounded in the source material, in this story, in the characters that Rachel wrote as she wrote them. And I want to give a lot of credit to Jacob for doing that, because it's not easy. It's not easy to take something from page to screen so well. And of course, stuff has to be cut and adjusted and moved around. But I think that, and Hailey, please correct me if I'm wrong, but even with stuff that did have to be adjusted, like, he changed Ilya's brother's name and Rachel didn't even notice. Like, it didn't matter. Like, it didn't affect the core story and the core relationship.
So the biggest really fundamental changes
Yeah.
were the role of female allies within the show, which I loved. So Svetlana is not barely at all in the books. She's not in there in the same way at all. Like, for example, in book 6, there is a point where Ilya calls her for dinner and she thinks it's a booty call. Like, that's how detached she is. So it's it's a very different role.
Yeah.
I'm going to get it wrong. Maria and Alana, did I get that right? Elena, the two women in episode 3. They are like a lot. They're they are quite present in Game Changer, but not in the same way. And I think what's interesting about a comparison between the book and the show is the book is written in third person, so we get, and it is a very show not tell book, but that is really hard to translate onto screen and still keep the depth of the emotion. And I think Jacob was really smart to add these female allies to provide points, to provide these touchstone points for these characters to learn about themselves, to have a place to release some of these emotions that were completely internal in the books. So like Jacob knows what he's doing, very obviously. Yes. And just a little fun little Canadian tidbit. Yes. Jacob is actually a Nepo baby. His dad is a very well-known Quebecois producer and director. He directed a movie called Bon Cop, Bad Cop. It's hysterical. Everybody should watch it. It's a bilingual film, and it's hilarious. And it was the highest grossing Canadian film.
Whoa.
So, and he was also involved in Tales from the City, which may not have really hit him as much in the US, but it had like Laura Linney and stuff in it. It was a very important... Do you know what I'm talking about, Sabi? It's a very important show in the like late 90s, and it was all about queer people in San Francisco. It was queer tales of it within the city of San Francisco. They did a new version of it later. So he is not new to these stories, which is, I think, an important part of this as well. So he knows what Canadian film and television can do. And I think that's why he likely wasn't as eager to get this made by an American studio.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about and transition perfectly into what specifically Crave is, because I had never heard of Crave as someone here in the US. So can you explain a little bit about what that entity is?
Okay, I want to start by saying this. I am a legal jurisdiction Canadian business nerd, right? So if I get on a weird tangent and you want me to stop, I need you to just let me know. Like, do we need a safe word like crazy Canadian wolfbird or something? Because this could go real deep, and I don't know if it's what your listeners are looking for.
Okay.
So Canada is a big country with not very many people in it, and that vastly changes the way our media, culture, government works. So like, there's less people in all of Canada than there is in Los Angeles, right? So like, think of the landmass.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. That's
we're not big. And then when you think about Canada as well, a lot of it is very remote. So for example, 1/3 of Canada's landmass has 100,000 people living in it. That's the north. That's north of 60 is 1/3 of Canada's landmass. Only 100,000 people live in the entirety of that. If you want to start talking about sovereignty and fears and stuff, that's all we got up there. We got a bunch of Inuit guys with old weapons and red hoodies. Look up the Canadian Rangers. It will make you giggle. So
I'm going to put so many things in the show notes, friends.
So anyway, because of that, Canada has a real propensity to monopoly. And it is not necessarily that monopoly is state funded or anything like that. It is just that the cost, the cost of entering the market, the economies of scale are so small here that we just don't have the same kind of things. There are other layers on top of that as well, but I'm just going to start with that. And so for that reason, when you talk about free channels, like you guys have ABC, CBS, all these different things, we have basically 2, sometimes 3 if you live in this city. So where I grew up, we only had 1, and that was the CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Channel. The Canadian Broadcasting Channel is a crown corporation. So this is a state-owned entity. It is state media, but it is at arm's length. So the government, look, right-wing people do not like it, but it is, in my opinion, the most balanced news source, and they prioritize Canadian content. They fund a lot of things. For example, they funded Schitt's Creek. That's everybody loves Schitt's Creek.
I watched it.
Oh, that's your next watch. You will adore it. Aside. So we have this big Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. They fund a lot of things. We call them productions of national interest, which are like documentaries. And no, I'm serious. This is so regulated. So it's lots of documentaries, lots of news, we have things like, there's a show called W5, which is like 60 Minutes, but better. It's, and then we also have CTV and Global. And Bell owns one of those arms, which is CTV. Bell Media, but nobody here is just a cable provider or just a streaming service. Bell Media also owns Crave. Bell Media is who provides my cell phone and is the reason I have internet in my house right now as well. Bell Media they don't do, no, they do. So they own TSN, which is the sports network, which has the license for hockey. So like Bell Media owns really a lot of things. Bell Media also owns all of the phones in prisons, and they make a lot of money off of that. So, they're not exactly flawless. They are still a capitalist corporation whose key goal is making money. And so let's not act like they are some benevolent thing. They thought they could make money on Heated Rivalry. They thought they could produce it for cheap and make more money than it cost to produce. And that's why they produced it.
Is Crave a production company or a streaming service? Crave, or like so many, both?
Crave is like HBO Max, but it is owned by Bell Media. So anything that Bell Media produces for their TV, like for their channel CTV, just like CBS, is also all on the Crave streaming service. So we have, so then the next natural thing for me to talk about here, again, please tell me if it's bad, is Canadian content laws. So I'm going to say
Michael gets to decide what stays in and goes out, because I'm fucking loving this.
Okay, great. So Canadian content laws, Canada has laws about how much Canadian content must be available on all Canadian networks, on all networks and streaming services that are
That's
in Canada.
awesome.
So it ranges from 55% to 60%, depending on various circumstances. And there is a very specific formula about what defines something as Canadian. So there was a lot of, and radio's even higher. So like when you listen to the Canadian radio, you're going to hear Avril Lavigne in a 24-hour period because she's popular and she's Canadian. But there was big drama in the 90s because Bryan Adams, is this somebody you guys are familiar with? He, Summer 69, you know.
Yeah.
So he recorded an album in the US and it didn't meet the CAN content law. And he was very mad. He's like, how can you say I'm not Canadian? I wrote this in Canada, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of drama about it. People hate it. Free market people hate it because we should just be making things that are good. But the reality is we are a big country with not very many people who share a language and a border with an extremely dominant culture. The U.S. culture...
Is that us? Is that us?
Well, the U.S. culture is dominant globally. So you can imagine how easy it would be for Canadian content and stories and culture to get swallowed up in that monolith because it's what we have access to.
Yeah.
You know, like Australia and New Zealand have similar laws. So when you share a language with such a dominant culture, it's really easy to just consume their media. And then the only Canadian media that we see is the Canadian media that they permit to be made. And that's not what anybody wants. And this has been law in Canada since TV has existed. It's not new. And now streaming services, they recognize it's a bit more difficult to say, okay, CAN content because your viewers are watching. And so they have said you have to invest a percentage of your profits into the production of Canadian shows. So Crave said we have to put a percentage of our profits into producing a Canadian show. Here comes Heated Rivalry. And Jacob Turney is already very successful, right? So he has two shows that are also produced by Crave that are very successful south of the border, not to the level of Heated Rivalry, but what is. And those are Letterkenny and Shoresy. Yeah, so that's the context that it was made in. So there's a lot of reasons that something like this can get picked up in Canada where it can't in the US, because I can imagine the US executive saying, I just can't imagine there's a market for this.
So, and that is, so both Jacob and I believe recently, like Francois Arnaud, I'm so sorry if I say his name
Francois Arnaud, come on. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know who says it. But both of them have talked about how Jacob did pitch it to bigger production companies and in the United States. And those companies came back with pages of notes and changes and things. One responded with, they don't want any kissing until episode 5. Could you imagine if this show did not have a single fucking kiss until episode 5? And
I would DNF.
Fast. And that's the thing that I keep coming back to is that Jacob was so passionate about this project being true to the books and true to the story and true to what was in it, and how, and like these two connected through their hookup situationship. Like that's, you can't erase that. That's the whole journey that they went on for like 8 years. So this is just another accolade for Jacob to holding on to the source material and making sure that it was the center of this show, that he was staying true to this story. And I think Crave, because they needed to spend money, or because, well, whatever, your name is recognizable, was like, sure, 6 episodes, we can fund that. So it was a much smaller budget than he would have had elsewhere.
It was less than $5 million.
I'm going to go with he made it fucking work. Like, he made it work.
So, and just for perspective, the actors made scale. So the most anybody likely made on that show was $80,000 for the whole series. Like, the boys are broke as a joke still. Like, they are, they're wearing Bulgari and Tiffany, but they don't, like, that's all the paid work they've had, really.
Did they get money when it got picked up for more distribution? No. Oh my God.
HBO bought it for $600,000.
Shut the fuck up. HBO, you owe them more money.
And the thing is again, all this was signed for 3 contracts. So Crave is not going to put more money into it, because why would they? Like, HBO is not going to put more money into it, because why would they? The actors are not going to get paid more money because they already signed contracts. There's nothing to negotiate. It's done. So it's low budget for 3 seasons. That's it. So it's crazy. Like, the margins of the profitability margin on this is going to completely change the face of television. I deeply believe that. I think that
I hope so.
Because what did we have from this that we don't have from something like Stranger Things? We had authenticity. We had actors who acted the shit out of it, not people who were known or who had credits or could pull people in. Like, Francois is somewhat known in Canada. Did you guys have the Borgia down there?
We did. I haven't watched it.
I think you'd like it. It's pretty good.
Probably.
And that's a Canadian show as well.
I love a corset.
Well,
but it kind of sexy corsets. It kind of reminds me of the real shift that happened in film when My Big Fat Greek Wedding came out. It is.
Do you want to know a little fun fact about that? She's also Canadian.
Shut up!
She's from Winnipeg. She's from where I live.
Oh my God, that's so funny, because it's filmed here. Like, we know all of those places because it's filmed here in Chicago.
Yeah.
So, like, that independent film changed the game in so many ways. And I think it's what made space for things like A24, which is destroying bigger production houses with what they're doing and how they're doing it. And what you just said about authenticity and actors like acting the shit out of it, that's what we connect to as humans. Like, that's what we like. That's what I want to watch. And it's why I read romance novels. I've had this conversation a couple different times. One of the reasons why I feel so satisfied in a romance novel is I get a view of a complete person succeeding at the end of a romance novel. Like, yes, it focuses on a love story, but I read a mystery. I don't know if that detective goes home feeling fulfilled at the end of the day, if they're, paying all their, but you can't have a love story without the whole human. And there are so many other genres where you can know just like a tiny part of them. And like, yeah, maybe there's action or excitement or adventure, but like, I'm not invested in whether or not that person succeeds at life. I'm like, I kind of want you to.
Well, I think that's why people are attracted to literary fiction. And then they'll be like, oh, but it was devastating. And I'm like, yes, but you can have all that without wanting to throw yourself down a well afterwards. That's the secret. Like, and yeah, the sort of disdain for romance by people who do not understand it is something that I cannot handle.
Or who read the worst of them and are like, see, it's all trash. I'm like, no, friend, it's not trash. You picked up a bad book or a book that wasn't for you. I could pick up a mystery. Like, do I like Nero Wolfe? Do I like Agatha Christie? Do I like something more modern? I don't fucking know. But like, I could pick up the one that's wrong for me or the one that's poorly written.
Can I add something kind of on topic, but kind of slightly not? There's a post on Threads going around. It's a picture of like heart-shaped Barilla pasta. And someone is like, in what world is this necessary? And everyone on my timeline is like, my world, let me have my whimsy. Like, and it's the same concept. Let us have our whimsy. Let us have our stuff. Like, just because it's not for you doesn't mean it's not for someone else. And it's just a ridiculous notion that that's not allowed. So,
yeah. And I think that's why a lot of cishet white men are so rejecting of romance and this type of story, because they are used to a world that is completely for them. And they are not used to the concept of, I'm not the target audience of this, and that's okay. Like, I really don't like monster truck rallies. I don't really get them. I don't understand why they exist. They sell out the stadium every time. So can I say monster truck rallies are bad? No, I cannot, because there is a whole host of people that gain a lot of joy out of it, and it harms no one. So how about we just let people like the things they like as long as they harm no one?
And that's it. I think the decentrification of the cis het white man, especially because we live in this age of emotionally stunted cis het white man, leads them to believe that anything that isn't centered around me is actively harming me.
Yeah, and I think they are
it's
very afraid that they will be viewed in the way that they view others. So we can talk, like, that is very
that
applicable
is
in the hockey world, because the
yeah,
reason that there is so much homophobia there is that toxic men cannot imagine that a person who is sexually attracted to someone with their body could be present with them in a locker room and not treat them as an object.
because that's how they treat women.
Because that is how they treat women. So the thing that deeply homophobic men are afraid of when it comes to gay men in their spaces, or queer men in their spaces, excuse me, is that they are not afraid that they themselves are gay. They are deeply afraid that gay men and queer men will treat them as they treat women. And until they come to terms with that, we will never clear homophobia from male spaces, ever. It's really quite horrifying. And I do think that that is something that is really being highlighted by the response to Heated Rivalry, even for people that you wouldn't necessarily think it comes from. I want you all who are listening to this to pay attention to the interviews moving forward and listen to how many cis het men must preface every compliment of this show with, "It's not usually my thing. I'm not really into the spicy stuff. I wouldn't typically watch a show like this." Okay? Like, what is it you're trying to say? What you're trying to say is, "I'm not gay, I'm not gay, I'm not gay." And all I can think about is that line in the show where, "You know what else makes you gay? Sucking my dick." Like, that is,
Yeah.
it's so funny because he's like saying to Shane, like, "We just had sex and you're worried about me perceiving you as gay?"
Oh God, but like that's the truth. And in episode 6, when Scott is accepting his award and he says, "When I was a teenager, I thought I might be that thing that you hear in the locker room."
You will never hear
And
that word more than in a hockey arena.
I mean, it just shocks me in this day and age in general. I'm around English soccer fans more than any other sport, and I hear the word cunt a lot because English speakers use the word cunt in a very different way than we Americans do. If you don't know what that way is, watch an interview with Brett Goldstein. He explains it beautifully. But I don't think I've ever been to I have never been to a hockey game.
Oh.
I don't know if I've even watched a hockey game from start to finish. Like, actually sat and watched the game.
TV hockey is not the same as in-person hockey. I don't watch a lot on television. I love an in-person hockey game. And I'm telling you, from Pee-wee to the highest level of the NHL, it is so fun to watch. It's so dynamic, a lot like soccer.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's why soccer hasn't translated well to the US, because it doesn't look great on TV, but it's really enjoyable to watch in person. And where football looks good on TV, right? Like, you can focus in on the play that's happening.
Oh, it's so fucking boring in person. American football is so boring in person because there's so many like minutes and hours of nothing.
And then don't get me started on baseball. 20 minutes of excitement stretched over an entire afternoon. Sign me up.
So we're going to insert our like other thing here, friends, because there's so many jokes about like Canadian, thank you Canada and every Canadian taxpayer for Heated Rivalry. And I'm sure Hailey is going to teach us that like yes and no, because like anything, especially things that deal with the government, it's never one answer.
Yeah, so it's very specific rules. It has to be a Canadian production company, and it has to be aired in Canada primarily. Like it first has to air in Canada. So there, like if it had aired on HBO first or completely, it wouldn't have been able to be funded this way. And it's not a fund, it's a credit. So it is a tax credit on future earnings. But what's really cool is the banks are familiar with it. And so what production companies essentially do is they borrow against that future tax credit. So, you're going to get your tax credit for your future earnings. You go to the Royal Bank of Canada and you say, and they have a special loans officer that works with this program. And it's a cyclical thing where, it's just a way that you defer, like you're going to earn money in the future and you're going to be able to pay off that loan. And if you don't, your production company goes bankrupt, essentially is what happens. And you don't get your tax credit. But it doesn't happen a lot, right? Because usually it's sort of like pre-purchased, like there's agreements and stuff.
So here's where I want to talk about Heated Rivalry and why its appeal is so vast, and how, as a romance reader, I am not surprised. So, like, how I'm not surprised. Like, this is such a great example of, like, why romance is powerful. And for people who are just obsessed with the show, I want them to, like, take a step back and understand why this show is amazing is because of romance.
I think you said it. I think the question has the answer in it. Is, we talked about it earlier, is the formulaic nature of romance is often why it catches strays, right? It's like, oh, it's all tropes, it's formula, blah, blah, blah. Every fucking genre is formula. Like, you telling me a mystery novel doesn't have a formula? Fucking Tom Clancy books, it's the same book with a different cover. Everything's a formula. There are rules. And
everything has rules. And I think it goes back to that conversation about how watching these two humans fall in love, and anyone who has either fallen in love or thought they fell in love and had it crash and burn knows that it takes work. Like, real love and relationships take work. And for me, the romance novels that I dislike the most are the ones where I'm like, but why are you in love? Like, I don't understand how you two work as a couple. And Shane and Ilya, we watch fall so hard for each other. And that as they hook up, they share more and more of themselves with the other. And that what they learn is they are so compatible, and that they have so many similar beliefs and drives and wants and respect, like levels of respect for each other and what's happening around them. And it is incredible. Like, I absolutely understand why they are in love and not just fuck buddies. Why Ilya and Svetlana can be friends and fuck buddies, but Ilya and Shane have that deeper connection. And that is so important.
Yeah. And I think with this romance in particular, but in romances in general, is the best romances do not ask the characters to change. They ask the characters to become the best versions of themselves.
Yes.
And so this one explains that beautifully. I mean, in book 6, there's some giving up, but like there's some sacrifice, whatever, but real love takes sacrifice.
Any real relationship is compromise. And if you've ever been in a relationship, you have to compromise to build a life with someone that's integrated. You don't just get to be like, I'm going to do my thing. No, you have to compromise constantly.
Yeah. And so, like, good romance, really good romance. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure I've even said this on your show before, because I'm a broken record. I have like 2 stories.
Friend, it's been over a year since you've been on the show last.
Yes, fair. But good romance explores the human condition through the vehicle of love. through the vehicle of
Yes.
sex, through the vehicle of intimacy.
Mhm.
And so that is what Rachel Reed and Jacob Tierney have done exceptionally well with this story. We see a young man who has to deal with an immense amount of trauma, who comes from an abusive home, who has to change his wiring about what love is. Because when you come from abuse, like the language of love is fear. And when you come from a loving, supportive home, the language of love is respect and kindness. And so there's this great scene in the show, and it's in the book too, but I'll focus on the show, is where it's the first Las Vegas like rooftop thing, and
Mhm.
he's like, not everything is about you, Hollander. And he
Yeah.
says, I have to go home. And he's like, how? And then Shane says, that's nice. You must be looking forward to it. Because Shane's brain, his
Mhm.
19-year-old brain, because he's 19 at that point, doesn't
Yeah.
compute that there are families where you don't feel loved and supported and held. And so because he has that security, he is able to give love to Ilya in a way that he's never experienced it. But because Ilya has always had been permitted to see emotions out loud, he's able to demonstrate love to Shane in a way that Shane is not as familiar with. Like that's the beauty of it.
I think also one of the things that we need to touch upon is that, and this isn't all the time, I'm not saying, oh, you can't have sex without feelings, but there's something inherently vulnerable about being intimate with someone. And especially if they are your first experience in certain ways, there is a shedding of security, because the thing about sex with another person is it involves another person, and they get to make their own decisions and their own moves, and they have a different interpretation of what, you meant when you said this, or even what feels good to them or would feel good to you. And the fact that this is Shane's certainly first experience with a man is incredibly vulnerable for him. And assuming you're a good lover, a kind lover, someone worthy of having sex with someone else, you care if the other person is enjoying themselves. So you have to learn about stuff. And I do want to touch upon Ilya, because as much as he presents as a fuckboy asshole, he is such a caring lover toward Shane. And I will say lover. Fuck you, Shane. I'm going to say it.
I only like that word when it's between meat and pizza, okay?
Meat lovers. You don't like lovers?
Oh, I hate that word. I hate it. So I was Shane, Shane was me.
I adore that word. I think it's so much fun.
My favorite, that is my favorite moment in the entire series, when he's like,
no, Ilya, that's gross.
And we're like, Ilya, no, that's gross. But even further when they're at the table and
the mom says,
mom is getting it, and like
no
Dad's
one is
not
allowed to say that.
But his hands. So next time you watch it, because you will watch it again, pay attention to what Ilya is doing with his hands, because he is about to make a motion of jerking someone off. You can see it, and that's why. And then Shane puts his hand he is going to demonstrate with his hands what it is they were before. And Shane's like, no. It's perfect.
Oh, God. I want to talk about the sex and the intimacy in Heated Rivalry, because as much as people talk about how gratuitous, oh my gosh, it's so much spice, that is modern dating, friends. It is the situationship that allows people to connect through sex, that builds emotional security, that leads to true intimacy and a potential romantic partner. And I just am in love with, number one, my understanding of the book Heated Rivalry is it is a lot of sex, because again, every time they're together, we're watching them hook up, right?
Well, and I think that that's a really critical thing to point out is there are no dates. Like their entire life is in hotel rooms until the cottage. They like
or like
not
their houses or
their
whatever.
houses. Well, and in the books, they didn't have the budget for it. Shane has a fuck house. Like this is the condo I bought. He doesn't live in that condo because he's so paranoid about about people seeing Ilya come and go from his home that he has bought a Montreal condo building, which are a very specific style of condo building. And the bottom floor is one apartment, the middle floor is one apartment, the top floor. He owns them both so he can fuck Ilya in the middle one. That's how paranoid hysterical. He is about getting found out. So
I love that detail. Oh my God.
And in the context of Montreal, that makes so much sense because I see people on social media being like, as if hockey players even get recognized. I'm like, where do you live? Like, where do you live? Because I am telling you, a Shane Hollander in a city like Montreal could not go anywhere. Like, not the aquarium with someone else's baby, nowhere. Like, so I don't get that logic, but yeah, so it's a hilarious thing. So everywhere except for Ilya's house is very impersonal where they are together. There is very, and it's hotel rooms, it's their houses later on. It's years into the relationship.
Yes.
Years.
So it starts so physical, and anyone who says that's unrealistic is wrong. That's so, the process of modern dating is often, I want to get my rocks off, you'll do. Oh, that was good, let's repeat. And repeat again until emotional connection is made. And
yeah.
And I want to just like point out that the sex that happened in this book served a purpose every time.
Mm-hmm.
The nudity served a purpose. A relationship was built in the physical intimacy where you have something like, I'm just going to say it, Game of Thrones, that is so violent and so harmful and full of so many terrible things. But the sex in that show, the nudity in that show felt gratuitous so often. Why is that person naked? Why are we seeing them like that? Well, what are you trying to portray?
Like, female bodies in a show like Game of Thrones were treated as set and furniture, not as fully formed, breathing characters, where with this, it's like, there's just so many like things that are important that we learn about them through these acts. So something, I loved when Jacob Tierney was like, it's not a fucking documentary. Like, do you really want to see them douche for 20 minutes? Like, what are you talking about? But there are things in there that I'm like, we learn a lot. So Shane always folds his clothes. He always keeps his socks on. Boy is very, very closed off. He is very fearful of doing things wrong. There's a set of rules he follows, and he's breaking them because Ilya is so attracted to him. Ilya is incredibly respectful.
So respectful.
There is not a single moment where he isn't checking in, where he isn't giving positive feedback when Shane is inexperienced.
Can I ask a question? Because I haven't read the books either. And I saw this in passing online. Is it mentioned in the books that Shane is autistic?
No, it's not ever said explicitly. Now,
I believe Rachel has confirmed it.
Yes.
I confirmed it to Hudson.
I have a feeling that it will be explicit in book 7.
Okay. Because I do know that the clothes folding and stuff like that is very much indicative of just an autistic brain and mannerisms.
From interviews that Hudson has been on, it seems that it was confirmed by Rachel.
Okay.
And he and Jacob talked about bringing in very clear
because it's the routine type of thing. Like, I do this, and so therefore I do this, and it's just the set. I just wanted to ask because I remember just seeing it in
Yeah.
passing.
I don't think it was unintentional. Like, it wasn't by
Right.
accident at all. And
Right.
Hudson has definitely said, his dad is autistic, and he says, like, it was, I kind of, like, he infused that into the character. And it's,
Mhm.
again, it's treated with a level of respect and affection that we don't generally
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
And I loved it because I'm like, I I'm not saying there isn't place for the profoundly autistic in media, but that seems to be the only thing we hear. And then that
Mhm.
feeds into this narrative when people hear one
Yeah.
in however many people are autistic. That is all they imagine about it. And then they're like, this is a public health crisis.
So we've been talking about the intimacy and the importance of the intimacy. And yes, sex is sexy, but I want to reference episode 5, because episode 5 is one of the highest rated TV shows ever. I mean, I know it has way fewer reviews than that one episode of Breaking Bad, and there is no explicit sex in the whole episode. And I want to just like highlight that as proof that the reason the sex is interesting for me is because of what we learn about Shane and Ilya while they're having it. And that relationship and love and growth is what allows an episode like episode 5 to exist without explicit sex, because that growth happened through the intimacy in their previous 3 episodes.
100% agree. The sex is so intimate and vulnerable in this show.
Yes.
Like, just even like the way they hold each other after, the way, like, there's this thing they do with their face frequently. And I don't even know if I can describe it properly, but it's this act of like they put their cheeks and noses near each other, but they don't kiss. And
Mm-hmm.
that happens very early on. Like, there's a lot of very romantic intimacy. This is not two young men getting their release. It never looked like that.
It
And
never
I
feels
think
like that.
it never feels like that. Um, and I think that that's one of the reasons that Shane has to contend with the fact that he's gay so quickly, because in the book he has had several relationships with women. He, like, not piles and piles of them, but he has hookups. He's a attractive young man who is going to be a hockey star. Like,
Of course he
he,
has.
he's wading through piles of pussy everywhere he goes. Let's be honest. Um,
Yes.
so he does take opportunities, but he always talks about, it's this thing where he has to like psych himself up to do it. He, prefers to receive a blowjob, and he doesn't make the connection that that's because he can close his eyes and imagine it's somebody else. And then he's
Yes.
like, but I'm not the kind of person that would just like leave her hanging, is essentially how he
Mhm.
like, so he's like, so then I kind of have to. And it's like, it's like the eating your vegetables form of sex for him. And that's what's
Yeah.
so telling about I really did try, Mom, when he says that to
Yeah.
Una, because he really did try. And I think that that is a journey that a lot of gay men in particular have to take, especially if they're not sort of stereotypically gay from a young age, right? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
and he also has some hookups with other men in the book as well after his first with Shane. So,
Stop
like,
it.
yeah, like, they're not exclusive. It's not super important to the story in the
No.
context of the way the series is, but like, it's easy for people to kind of watch what happens in the show and be like, well, Shane has only had sex with Ilya and then
That's
Rose
kind of what I thought.
the two times.
Oh,
But that's
no, I
not
kind of
that's
thought
not
he
book
had
accurate at all.
women. I thought he had women, like they mentioned the high school girlfriend, and I'm like, I'm sure you lost your virginity in high school. I also want to point out that we get 2 different instances, like, are two different expressions of how a couple might engage in sex that are kind of just like throwaways, and it's not a big deal. No one's like having a moment about it. But we get Shane, who says, "I'd rather be the hole than the peg,"
Amazing.
which implies his preference. I love that line. And then in episode 3, we've got both Scott and Kip at various moments asking, "Can I fuck you?" Which implies that they are verse in some way, shape, or form, because it's not always one or the other, which differs from Shane and Ilya, where it is always in terms of penetrative sex. Shane is the hole and Ilya is the peg. Again, one of my favorite lines.
I also love I have a thing. A ting.
Oh,
what is
God.
this thing? A dildo. Like,
what color is it?
What color is it? Is it big? It's big, isn't it? Like, it's so funny.
It's such a great moment. And it also, he really does, it's so well written. His English gets so much better.
Yes.
His English is so much better.
That is a remarkable, like, will be studied in acting classes, I'm sure, is how he did that character. I would have sworn that he was
Russian,
Eastern European, or had Eastern European parents.
No, Texas. Odessa, Texas.
Like, Friday Night Lights, Odessa, Texas.
So, friends, Hailey has been on the podcast before, not only once or twice, but technically 3 episodes. So she has answered all the questions that I normally ask new guests, but I do want to know, and I'm putting you on the spot, what was your top read, or your top 3 or 5, if you really need to, from 2025?
All right, I'm going to have to open my story graph for this because I have a terrible memory. But I had a good year. It was a lower reading year for me because I had a lot of personal stuff going on. But I was able to find some really great things. So, okay, yeah. So The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston is a great book. Again, not a lot of sex in it because he's technically a ghost. But super romantic and amazing. I really enjoyed Rewind It Back, which was the conclusion to the Windy City series by Liz Tom Forte.
Right. Yeah.
And what, again, a much less sexy book than her other books. So this just fits our argument that, like, the sex is not it. So Love is a War Song and The Truth According to Ember, you must read those. They are by Danica Nava. And she is, I can't think of anybody else who's Indigenous who's writing in the true, like, romance space other than her. Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, not technically romance, but an amazing book. And then I made my 17-year-old read it, and she came running downstairs and said, "Why did you do this to me?"
I have not read it.
It's one of those ones. Oh, I really enjoyed The Moon and His Tides by Gina Darling. And I can't wait to finish the series.
Did you read book 2?
Not yet. I was waiting until book 3 came out, but she just announced
it's
now
delayed, being pushed to March.
I think it's just wait.
Fine.
My
God.
I don't. It was hot, but my heart, my lungs, my guts.
I cried at the end of The Moon and His Tides.
I did not know it was a trilogy, so when it ended on a cliffhanger, I was like, "What have I done?" My last one that I think anything by Chloe Leese, but the Wilmot Sisters series is great. And then I just have to talk about it, like Get a Life, Chloe Brown. This book is so special.
I listened
and I want everybody to read it.
I listened to the whole series. So great. The series was so lovely.
The Good Brothers series by Sarah Kate was also a standout last year for me. So it's these 4 brothers, and they were like, they're sons of a megachurch pastor, and they're all like coming to their...
What's the name of that series?
The Antihero, The Heartbreaker,
Oh, and then
homewrecker.
Prodigal Son somewhere. I split them
Yeah.
because one of them's MM.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good year. Nisha J. Tooley's Not Safe for Work was great.
I loved it.
And a non-romance book that I just think is really a good time to listen to it is A Well-Trained Wife by Tia Levings. And I think it's really important in the context of sexuality and romance and patriarchy, because she is essentially she escapes it's my escape from the Christian patriarchy is the undertone.
Ooh.
And it's very heavy and very, very difficult. She narrates it herself as an audiobook. And I think it's important to, she really shows how where we're at is there's a pretty direct line from the Christian patriarchy to where we're at. And then another great one is Jesus and John Wayne, if you're in that space. So, read the romance, but
how Jesus is very confusing for me because I don't have the understanding on a base level.
Funny.
I don't have the base understanding of who Jesus is to understand commentary on it.
I would say neither do Christian nationalists, if we want to really be honest.
That's true. All right. And I just want to say, Hailey, thank you for being such a fun guest, and not just here on the actual podcast, but one of my great internet friends. As you know, we do not live in the same country. I have seen her on 2 occasions in my life, and it's been so special getting to be on this bookish journey with you, especially in these last 2 years where there have been some hard conversations in the bookish space. And I just appreciate you for who you are and the intelligence that you bring to this world, into this space.
I didn't expect to cry during this podcast.
Oh my gosh, it's just because it's late. No.
It's because my bladder is directly attached to my tear ducts. Just flows. No, and I super respect what you do. And I before I met people like you, I don't think that I thought that there was anybody who occupied the bookish space in the same way I did, who read it critically. And there was I'll be honest, I really hid my reading habits from the greater world for a really long time because it's not well received. And so when I met other people that were like, oh my God, we can talk about this critically, like literature, because it is, it was really fantastic for me. So.
And yes, friends, come out of the darkness. And I think I was just too young when I started reading romance to know better or to have the ability to hide it, because there were no e-readers. If you wanted to read the romance book, there was the romance cover on the front of the book. You just had to show everyone you were reading the vampire story. And it was just so lovely, even though it is late, even though we are tired. And I cannot wait to bring you back one day.
I can't either. I love it. It's my favorite. All right. Take care,
Bye,
friend.
everyone. Jace Reads Romance is a 3 Paws Productions podcast. Produced by Sephi, edited by Michael Achenbach. Our theme song is written and performed by Diana Weishauer. For show notes and more, head to www.jacereadsromance.com. That's JAYCE Reads Romance. Follow us on socials at Jace Reads Romance everywhere. For more exclusive content, visit us on Substack, where you'll find extended episodes, bonus episodes, and more. Have a question, story, or a book recommendation you know I'll love? Email Jace at jacereadsromance.com or call and leave a voicemail at 661-JACE-RR. That's 661-529-2377. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And as always, this is Jace, holding space for you.